Although many suspected that Marine Le Pen's national rally could do extremely well in this election, few have predicted what happened only moments after the announcement of early results in France.
President Emmanuel Macron decided to dissolve the French parliament following a crushing defeat of his party. So what are the consequences of this surprising move? We'll discuss the issue with our guest, Romain Le Quiniou, Managing Director of the Euro Creative. That's another think tank that's focusing specifically on Central and Eastern Europe, but for obvious reasons, we'll concentrate.
French
on France tonight. And so, Romain, as a Frenchman, the first one will be a personal one. So, how do you feel about what happened yesterday?
Well, you know, as any French citizen, it's a bit of a surprise. And I just say the results of this election were not a surprise. I think that our pollsters predicted quite well the result of the election. A big victory for Marine Le Pen and her party, National Rally, and a crushing defeat for Emmanuel Macron and his list from Renaissance. But the surprise indeed was, the announcement of the French president to proceed with the dissolution of the parliament. And now it's very difficult to predict what will happen. What we know is that we will have legislative election in the next few weeks. The first round will be on the 30th of June, and then a second round on the 7th of July. But as you know, it's very difficult to predict what will be the result. What is sure is that nobody was really prepared of this scenario. Of course, we were talking over the last few weeks and the last few months of potential reshuffle of the government, potential dissolution of the National Assembly, but later a potential vote of non-confidence in the next few months, but definitely not a dissolution of the parliament that early, especially a few weeks before the Olympic Games. So that's a big surprise. Now let's see what's going to happen.
In terms of the domestic politics, do you think that this is a reason to panic, this sudden move by French President Emmanuel Macron, or this is something that is not going to be affecting domestic politics to an extent that is going to change the way the foreign politics is being made in Europe?
Well, as a French citizen, I would say that there is a reason to panic when a national right party, especially a party that is very close to Russian narratives that we know has been financed by some different financial tools by Russia, is the most popular choice, political choice in our country that might be in position to help the government, things like this. Of course, we need to be worried. But as from now, again, we don't know what is going to happen. We have the possibility to have the National Rally being able to form a government, but also there is the possibility that the results will be less than expected. We still have the possibility to see a resurgence of the so-called Front Républicain, so the Republican Front. Basically, citizens can mobilize more against the National Rally. But yes, I would say that it's a problem. Definitely, that the National Rally is so high, but it's not a new thing. It's been the case for several months, if not several years. And I would say that the consequence is not only domestic, it's not only French-centered. There is a consequence at the European level. First, Emmanuel Macron and mostly the French representatives in the European Parliament and in Brussels will be less influent because of the political, maybe not crisis yet, but at least turmoil, as you mentioned in your documentary. And also, we have to say, as Ukraine is still at the center of the news, still at the center of developments when it comes to European security, that's a concern, of course, that National Rally would be in position to have the government, maybe.
Okay, so because according to the latest polls, it shows that the National Rally may gain some 265 seats in the French National Assembly, overall of 577. And as you mentioned, the leader of the party, Jordan Bardella, is ready to become a new prime minister of France. Whether they will find a partner for the coalition, that's up to the discussion. But the question is here whether President Macron is not putting the whole situation on a gamble, because it is taking a huge political risk, right, at this particular moment in time. So don't you feel like he's actually paving, a way for Marine Le Pen for her, absolute victory? Because if things go wrong, if the French don't mobilize themselves as they did during the presidential election, it will have catastrophic consequences for the ruling class of France for many years to come.
Absolutely. I think you say is right. It's a political gamble, and we don't know what will happen. President Macron really doesn't know what will happen. What we know for now is that basically not only Renaissance is surprised and not prepared for this election. I think that every political force in France today is not prepared for it. The National Rally is a structured political party as of now, that we know. They are prepared for elections, but are they really into taking over the responsibilities? Are they really looking for taking over the power now? Definitely not. And there is still some internal rivalry. They don't know if they will make it to the full majority. Will they need a partner? And if they need one, will they be able to set up an agreement, for example, with the traditional right? That's very, very unsure. When you look at other political forces, it's not sure neither that they will, benefit from this election. Far from there. The left is still very divided. They are trying to set up an agreement between the different forces, between the left. It's not sure that they will make it. And what we know, there are some polls that have been revealed, which shows that basically the National Rally will benefit the most from these snap elections. That was a poll that was made a few months ago already, but still, it shows basically that the National Rally will be the first party to benefit from it, that Renaissance would lose a big number of its parliamentarians, and then the left and the traditional right will lose a bit also. So this is only a poll. We don't know what will happen. Now it will be very interesting to see the new polls that will basically reflect on what the citizens think after the European elections and with this new configuration. What we know for now is that it will be extremely difficult for President Macron and his allies to get a majority, being relative or absolute. That's a certainty. But again, it's impossible today to know what will be the results and what will be the outcome of the elections. What we know is that the members of the Renaissance Party will have very difficult time when it comes to the second round of the election. If we have, a fight between 3, 4, maybe 5 candidates, they will struggle to get to the seats. But if it's a duel, there is still this possibility that electors, voters in France will vote against the National Rally. But again, it's a gamble, and a gamble is always undecided and dangerous by definition.
Mm-hmm. So it seems to be the very usual case that there is no democracy without choice, and the choice has to be made by the people. That's one of the basic rules of democracy. And it seems to be the case that far right is actually gaining when it comes to France. What do you think these decisions that are being made and the decisions that are going to be made by voters in the upcoming French elections for the parliament tell us about the condition of society, the social and political landscape?
Well, yes, I think that this vote for first of the European election is seen as a punishment towards Macron and its allies at the political level. But the discontentment of the French people is not something new. It's basically something we've seen in the past few years in different elections, in different electoral times, with different degrees of success or not for the National Rally. But this is definitely a trend in France. The National Rally is growing. It's not the only anti-system party that has been growing. You've been mentioning in your documentary the far left. This is also a symbol of discontentment. This discontentment right now is generalized to the society, which means that basically the vote for the National Rally or the far left in France was in the past limited to some segment of the society, different category of age, different social professional background, different socio-economic background, or even different geographic location of voters. Now it looks like, at least for the National Rally, that they have been able to capitalize and to attract voters from all the social professional categories, all the social economic backgrounds, and from different locations in France, mostly rural or and they are still struggling in urban areas, but still there is the trend that now French people are basically inclined and ready to vote for the National Rally because they see it as a kind of alternative to the system, alternative to Macron. And it's true that over the past few years, and we saw that during the last two presidential elections, that the duel was between Macron, so broadly the center of the political map of France, against the National Rally. And in any democracy, the principle of a democracy basically is to choose between alternative forces, and most of the time there is alternance and there is a change between the different forces at the top of the democratic system. That's the problem we face now. The alternative was between the pro-democratic and pro-European center against anti-democratic and pro-Russian force in France. And this discontentment now is very real, and we don't know, once again, if French voters will be able and will be willing, and is much more important, will be willing to vote against the National Rally, because basically we don't know if French, in majority, still believe that the National Rally is a threat or not for French democracy, is a threat or not for their own interest.
Well, Romain Le Quiniou, the co-founder and managing director of Eurocreative, a think tank coming all the way from Paris, France. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.